So with that, why don't we get started? I'm going to start with Keith. Keith, when you think about this economic boom that's starting to take place, let's talk about the competitive landscape for existing and new companies. What should our small businesses do to prepare for this onslaught of a technology onflux to really able to participate in the economic prosperity here in Miami-Dade County?
Thank you for your question. I think Miami is really on the cusp of transforming our economy from historically being dependent on hospitality and tourism to becoming a global tech hub. And with that is a paradigm shift that we're experiencing, where we are changing from what we historically have done. And so one of the challenges and opportunities of small businesses, particularly in the midst of, in the heels of COVID, was that they have to reinvent themselves. They have to have an online presence. They have to be able to personalize products that compete with some of the larger companies, for example. And one of the things that they need to focus on, at least in my opinion, is customer service. Because when you go into a Walmart and you go into some of the bigger stores, there's generally a lot of turnover. There's generally an impersonalization of the customer experience. And so one way that small businesses, mom and pop shops, if you will, can distinguish themselves is having an online presence, providing maybe some niche products for target markets, and then also just in quality customer service.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that contribution, Keith. Mr. Finney, let's go to you. Again, the competitive landscape recognizes in the 90s, particularly in San Francisco area with the tech boom, there was some $21 billion amassed in that area. Regrettably, not all minority and or small companies participated in that economic prosperity. What do you think from your standpoint as the Beacon Council's executive? What should small businesses be doing to stay competitive and take advantage of this wave coming to us?
Yeah. So two parts to that question, and really building on the comments that Keith offered. First and foremost, this whole shift to becoming a tech region, a tech hub, is happening at an accelerated pace, much faster than I think any of us could have anticipated. So I've been here for a little over about 5 years, and this tech effort has been underway for more than a dozen years. So the community has been preparing for it and building for it with folks like Ted and others who are in the region. But the reality is just in the last couple of years since COVID hit, everything has been in kind of a hyper, accelerated mode. And that puts some real challenges on our small businesses to be able to respond. What happened out in Silicon Valley was an isolated location where incredible wealth in the tech sector was amassed. Some of it crept up into the Northeast, into Boston and New York and a few other places. But if you looked at the technology landscape and where the wealth was being created at, 90% of the venture capital was going into California, and Northern California at that. And the other 10% was sprinkled around the Northeast and a little bit here in the South and other places, right? If you just study it, you'll see that. The reality is that now we're going through this incredible transformation where folks are migrating out of the West Coast and California into the South in places like Florida and Texas and Tennessee and the Carolinas and others. Folks from the Northeast, because of the regulatory environment and business costs and taxes and everything else, also migrating. And again, the COVID crisis, the pandemic that we're dealing with, has accelerated all that. So what can small businesses do? It's exactly what Keith was saying. You've got to be prepared. Businesses have to be able to make that pivot from, having customers who walk in the door to having customers they can deal with through e-commerce or online. When the crisis hit, our phones were ringing off the hook with small businesses that had no ability to contact their customers or for their customers to contact them because they didn't have a digital footprint. They didn't have a bona fide website. They didn't have Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram and all these other tools that are readily available to help businesses be successful. So a big part of what we're doing, and I'm going to pause because I'll talk about it a little bit later, is we've launched a small business accelerator. An accelerator is an intentional word for us because, as I mentioned earlier, we're in this hyper transition. And if our small businesses don't get ready for it now, their ability to grow their businesses as a result of this tech boom that's happening and this incredible wealth that's now starting to show up in Miami-Dade, they're going to miss the opportunity. So we've started this accelerator. The idea is to get our small businesses ready. And we have a small cohort that's underway right now. I'll talk a little bit more about it later. And hopefully some of the business owners that are out there looking for help will look to contact the Beacon Council and or any of our partners like OIC and Career Source South Florida and the city of Miami and so many others that are actively working with us to try and help get small businesses ready with capital, new customers, marketing programs, et cetera.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Finney. Mr. Lucas, some might say, okay, this guy's a music guy. Why is he in this room talking about tech? But we know that tech is a broad field. You know, tech informs and acknowledges all sectors. How can non-tech related industries like your music industry and or others capitalize from this wave?
Got it. Great question. To piggyback off what Mr. Finney just said, I was doing a podcast interview probably about a year and a half ago. And the gentleman in the middle of the podcast, he was from out of the Bay Area. And at the end of the podcast, he said to me, Mr. Lucas, do me one favor. Do not allow what happened in the Bay Area here in San Francisco to happen in South Florida. The light bulb went off and it really hit me in the middle of the pandemic. I'm like, what do you mean by that? He said, Mr. Lucas, is it possible? Can I call you after the interview and have a conversation with you? And he told me, say, you know, now that everybody done left Silicon Valley and moved down to South Florida, moved to Texas, we're hurting here in South Florida. I mean, hurting in the Bay Area. And it really impacted our community real bad. And we're struggling now that they're not here no more. And he said, make sure that don't happen in South Florida. That light bulb went off in my head. And I just told my wife, I got to do something about this. I love my city. You asked, how can we help? We was able to help some artists that people didn't know about. When we first started the music business, Miami was known for Two Live Crew in the music business and what they was able to do. But we were able to come along and make household names with people like Rick Ross. That was just a homegrown guy who had talent, but was able to take them on a national platform and help them be successful. Trick Daddy, Trina, just to name a few. And I feel we can do the same thing here in South Florida in the tech community. Identifying our community. There's some talented people here in South Florida that need that opportunity. And I started a nonprofit called Tech Knowledge. And I'm going to make sure that we put the effort and time into getting back in our community and making sure our community is aware of what's going on. We can sit back and watch and see what's going on and don't do nothing about it. But we got to hit the grounds and get into it the same way we took artists that can rap, that can sing, and make them household names. We can do the same thing here in South Florida with some of the talent that's around us. And that's what we got to do. So that's why I'm here today.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So is this real? Oftentimes there's a wave come in and it doesn't stay, it doesn't stick, and people put a lot of resources and investment behind. So I'd love to hear from each of the panelists. Is this a moment or a movement? Let's start with Keith.
Well, from my perspective and the mayor's perspective, we'll tell you that this is a movement. And we're doing everything we can to be very intentional about sustaining what we're doing. We think that we don't want to make the mistakes of what we feel were, the mistakes of some of the San Franciscos and New York, because by being intentional about sustaining this movement and not making a moment, is that we are trying to build out the ecosystem here locally. So what do I mean by that? K through 12 education. The mayor is going to be announcing an initiative in December as it relates to that, partnering with local organizations that are in the trenches doing some of the good work, but may not have some of the resources, and supporting those organizations and also getting the word out. So for example, we have 5,000 role models coming to City Hall on Wednesday. And Isaiah Jackson, who wrote Bitcoin in Black America, the mayor did a cafecito talk with him last week. He's coming back and he's going to do an educational component. And then from there, we're going to take these 40 to 50 young men to X Labs, which is an audiovisual reality company that's in Brickell. Then from there, we're going to take them, this is just a tour, and we're going to take them to Motorsports, has a North American headquarters, Formula One racing, video gaming. They're in Little Haiti.
That's right. Yeah, there you go.
And people don't know that. And so, and the idea is to not only talk about what is happening here, but get people to be able to touch it, feel it, smell it, use the five senses to just see it and be a part of it. And then so hopefully through that and through the mayor's conversation, we're not only encouraging people to just get a job, but we need to also talk about entrepreneurship and do things to not only tell not only for our black and brown kids to not only learn about this tech thing, but also think about it from an entrepreneurial aspect. And I kind of piggyback off of what Ted said. There's a lot of talent out there. People don't know. They may not even have access to resources. And so those are the things that we're doing as a city. And we could talk a little further in detail about extending this movement and not make it a moment.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate what you said about them being able to touch it, feel it, and see it. We believe at OIC our people's aspirations are only as high as what they're exposed to. So if you've never been exposed to it, if you come from an impoverished community, you don't believe that it's possible. So that exposure is immensely important to us. So thank you for that contribution. And to my right, Mr. Finney, is this a movement or a moment?
Yeah, I agree with Keith. I think it's a moment. I mean, a movement, excuse me. The moment has passed, right? And we're still at it. We're still seeing momentum. And so to me, it's clearly a movement. But there are a few things that I think we need to pay attention to as a community and as a region in order for this movement to really take hold. And I use the word region intentionally because it's more than just a single location, right? It's more than Miami-Dade. It's more than Broward, Palm Beach. We've got to think about this incredible and rich region that we sit in and ensure that the kinds of things that are happening here are really embedded across the entire region, because that's really what, everybody says Silicon Valley as if it's a single location. It's a very broad area that covers a significant part of Northern California. So we have to think about ourselves in that same way, is that there's this broad regional impact that this movement has to have. With that comes this whole question of resiliency. We have to start thinking about that, and how do you build resiliency into this? And I'm not talking about necessarily sea level rise and things like that. That's certainly important. But resiliency of the businesses we're dealing with, of the people that we're talking about, of the neighborhoods, the communities, et cetera. So resiliency, a big part of it. It's got to be equitable, right? There's got to be opportunities for everybody across the spectrum to participate. So how do we get our least economically viable residents to participate in this incredible economic boom that we're having? I came here from Michigan. My parents came from Alabama to Michigan in the early 1950s, like 1951, 52. And they came there because there was economic prosperity in the automotive plants, where you literally could go from impoverished to living a middle-class lifestyle because the auto plants were paying such high wages, right? And in theory, or at least it's said, that the auto industry created the middle class. How do we do that here, right? We've got this tech boom. Let's start thinking about how the tech industry can ensure that we have a viable middle class here in South Florida and in Miami-Dade in particular. So we've got to make sure that there is equity. And then we have to make sure that this incredible talent that we're generating through our colleges and universities is not simply drifting off to other locations, right? There are other places that are growing too. I referenced some of them, Texas and in Tennessee and Georgia and others that are also enjoying incredible moments or movements. We have to make sure that our young talent is not migrating to those places. So we've got to have resiliency, we've got to have equity, and we've got to have a focus on talent and what it means to this community as a part of this movement. In addition to those great companies that are being created by folks, entrepreneurs like Ted and others that we know can make a huge difference in our community.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Mr. Lucas, you know something about movements and moments. Is this a one-hit wonder, to use the terminology of your industry?
Definitely not a one-hit wonder.
Okay.
Like I said, I took it upon myself to go down to the city of Miami and meet with Mayor Suarez myself, and ask him, can I meet with him, just to get a good understanding. Is this a movement, or is this something that's going to be around? And he sat down with me and he explained to me, Ted, this is real. And he told me, make sure you get people in your community to get them aware of what's happening. And that was something that made me form Technology, the nonprofit, because he told me this is going to be here, and he don't have a problem with introducing me to CEOs, to bridge that gap between CEOs and my community. And he made that clear to me. And when he said that to me, it opened my eyes. I sat down with some other brothers and sisters in my community. And over the last year, I've been able to get some brothers and sisters together to help them to understand what we have to do. We got to go back in the trenches. We got to go back. Like I tell everybody, it ain't hard, man. We just like when you're doing a lecture right now. People will go knock on your door to get your attention. They would come to your church and tell you to vote for you. We got to do the same thing now to wake up our community and let people know what's happening around us. We just got to beat the doors down and let people know it ain't that hard, man. I tell people, when I was in high school, I remember they had Army, Navy, sitting in the lobby when you first walk in. Hey, you want to get enrolled in the Army? We got to do the same thing now to get back in our community and let our kids know what's happening. And that's how we're going to change this and make sure it's not just a one-hit wonder.
Excellent. No, that's a great point. I think that grassroots engagement is important. We know communities receive feedback and information in all kinds of ways. And so having multiple channels like the grassroots effort is very important. So thank you for that contribution. Keith, we're coming back to you. You referenced nurturing the ecosystem. What we know when there's a substantial growth from an economic development standpoint, there are other kinds of sectors and benefit that can benefit. So they don't always have to be directly tech, or there could be indirectly tech. How can this IT industry explosion affect other disciplines? Are there any emerging sectors that can benefit from this? Any ancillary services that should be paying attention? Somebody might say, I'm not an IT person, this isn't for me. Talk to us about that.
Well, funny you should ask. I'm not going to date myself too badly and say when I was born, but I remember there used to be payphones. And then we went through the payphone period where there were pagers. And then we had a brick, which was the phone. And you used to have to take the antenna off and put it under the seat so no one could see it if you left it in the car. Because now you carry your PC, your phone, it connects you to the world. Basically, your Encyclopedia Britannica. Some of you may not even know what that is. For those that were fortunate to be able to afford the Encyclopedia Britannica, because if you could afford that, your family was doing good. So in having grown up in Liberty City on 59th Street, the 7th place, Northwestern Bull. So if there are any bulls in the house, all right. When you think about the Jetsons, okay, the vehicles and those gadgets that happen. A couple of months ago, I sat down with a gentleman who was with the Advanced Aerial Mobility Division of Hyundai. Hyundai cars? No. They're developing an electrical vehicle that's going to travel 100 miles per charge, that's going to lift vertically and travel like an airplane.
Oh, wow.
And carry 2 to 4 people. They want to land on rooftops. They want to be operational in 7 years. Wow. They're talking with the FAA to work out the flight patterns and stuff like that. And there are other people in this space.
We're talking to 3 different companies.
Guess what they said that they need? Are going to need? Mechanics. They're going to need pilots. And so if it's tech, it's low tech. It's not someone coding. It's not someone writing code or someone doing some of the technical things, but it's just someone doing some of the basic things. Like now, if you're an auto mechanic is not like we used to go see Pookie and Little Man to go get our car fixed at the Shade Tree Mechanics. but now Pookie got a little device he'll connect it to your car and he can tell you what's wrong with your car. So it's moving towards that. So folks that are sitting back and thinking about how can I be a part of this tech economy, this growing thing, but maybe I have a GED, maybe I don't even have that. I don't have any college experience. There are opportunities there. You just have to be diligent and have to look, because not everything is going to be based on some of the, let's say, higher learning type aspects, but some of it's going to be working with your hands, because those positions are going to be needed, being pilots. And so, and also yesterday, the mayor drove in a level 4 self-driving vehicle. I found out that there's level 5, but level 4 basically is self-driving vehicle. So if you thought that you were making ends meet by driving Uber or Lyft, that's going to change, because vehicles are going to have those jobs. Vehicles are going to have those jobs because they're going to be self-driving vehicles that's just going to pull up with passengers and stuff like that. So For some of you younger people, because I kind of dated myself, because those that don't know about the bricks and don't know about Encyclopedia Britannica, start looking at different career choices that you're having, because it's trending, and not everything in this tech space is going to be so technical. There's going to be opportunities to make a very good living and support your family. And so just kind of keep your eyes open for those.
Excellent. We often talk about, again, young people's aspiration and exposing them. So often young people do because their parents did it, because they thought it looked good on TV, because they thought it would make a lot of money. But good feedback to think broadly as this tech boom comes. There's all kind of sectors and opportunities, and you don't have to go to Harvard per se to get to be a part of the action. So great feedback. We deeply appreciate it. Mr. Luca, let's come to you. When we think about the music industry, how could tech affect other disciplines like the music industry? How has it evolved the music industry over the years?
Wow, tremendous change. I'm gonna date myself a little bit with Keith there. I remember you used to have to go to the store and wait in line to purchase you a CD, because you really like that song and it's coming out on Friday and it's a line outside of whatever record store you like. But that has changed. While I'm sitting here today, someone in Japan is listening to my record.
Wow.
Someone in Germany is listening to my record. I'm gonna take you back. I used to take a physical CD, a box of CDs, and send to an army base because they couldn't get the CD. Now they're able to get the CD. Able to get the music without that. And that has changed. Now we got NFTs. NFTs have changed, and NFTs is in the process of taking the place of what's happening now in the music space. I released the NFT recently, probably like 4 months ago. It was a great experience, and I did very well and helped the local artist, Atomic, who's known for the orange down here in South Florida. Me and him partnered together. I took some musicians down here, took a very famous song that's known here in Miami, Peanut Butter and Jelly Time, and put those two, a musician and an artist together, and released it to NFT. Well, now we're coming back in March, and we're having an NFT conference at the Adrian Art Center. That's the things that we're doing to make sure our community is aware of it. I'm excited about it. And it's just changing every day. It's moving on and on. You got to think, Keith went back. I'm going to take you back. It was an 8-track that you had. Then you went from 8-track to a cassette, to a cassette to a CD, to buying a record for 99 cents. Think about that.
That's right.
But now it's streaming all the time, and you got it right on your phone. So it's changing every day, and we got to just stay in front of it. And one way for me to stay in front of it is getting in front of this NFT. What's going on. That's why we're bringing the conference here. And I'm going to continue to educate my people and help them understand what's happening in the music business.
Excellent. Mr. Finney.
I tell you, these guys are making me feel old. Because I remember when you had a reel-to-reel. That's going way
You lost me there, Mike. You lost me, Mike.
I mean, if you know a reel-to-reel, you got to be at least 65. So I'm 65. But I mean, it's this is all really interesting stuff. And Keith made a couple points. Ted made a couple points. And what I would say is, and by the way, you got to explain to everybody what NFTs are, because most of us are not familiar with that term, right? But it's a way that intellectual property is being packaged now and sold at incredible prices to individuals who want to own something that was original, right? And it could be almost anything. It could be music. It could be art. I mean, it could be a lot of creative stuff. And those are the kinds of things that we need to learn more about, because we can play in that space. We may own some of those things that could become that intellectual property that someone else wants to buy. Keith pointed out that Ubers are about to go out of business, at least the individual who drives them. Well, the reality is that same individual could buy 3 or 4 or 5 cars and actually have those cars operating autonomously. So one person could sit back and operate those. So you don't have to concede that you won't be able to make money as an Uber driver. You can make money as an Uber franchisee, right? Think about it. Amazon did this, right? All those Amazon Prime trucks, the gray trucks that we see running around delivering products at a pace that none of us could have anticipated, those are independent entrepreneurs for the most part, right? I mean, who would have thought that a program like Amazon's, where if you had $10,000, and most of us don't, but if you had it, you could have bought a franchise here in South Florida and operated 4 trucks delivering products and making enough money to support yourself and 3 or 4 other people. I mean, those are the kinds of things that we have to be prepared for, because technology is more of a platform than it is an industry, a vertical industry sector, right? It touches a little bit of everything. It touches e-commerce. I just mentioned Amazon. It touches the music industry, non-fungible tokens. It touches healthcare. I mean, how many of you have now, during this pandemic, had to visit a doctor using your iPhone or your computer or something else, right? It covers trade and logistics. It covers aerospace, and I can go on. Technology has literally touched every single industry. So don't be concerned that you may be playing in an industry that's not technology. Understand how technology is interjecting itself into your industry and where the opportunities are for you to prosper as a result of technology becoming a more efficient, more cost-effective, and frankly, an opportunistic way of doing business.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. Finney, for that contribution. What great perspective for us all to think about. We're going to transition into an area of the discussion that's near and dear to our organization. That's around job skills. And we have joined with us Mr. Rick Beasley, who's the executive for our local workforce board, Career Source South Florida, the largest workforce board in the state. So, Mr. Beasley, you're up to bat. For individuals in underserved communities who may not have college degrees, specialty credentials, or advanced training, how could they participate? What should they be doing to prepare themselves for this technology wave so they can have an opportunity for economic prosperity?
Well, first, good morning to everyone. I apologize I'm not able to be there. We are actually hosting our own workforce board meeting here, but I thought this conversation was important for me to step aside and come participate. And it's a great question, Newton. One, I love OIC and the work that you all do. But here's an opportunity for those who have low skills, no skills, those who are returning citizens, those who are on public assistance, those who have been out of the workplace for a significant period of time. This is a perfect opportunity to come back and get reskilled, retooled. Working with organizations like OIC, working with the Beacon Council, with Community Ventures. I don't know if Mike mentioned it, but it's a wonderful initiative that we've launched here in Miami-Dade County, and also going to our career centers and our training vendors. There's a number of ways of getting into the workplace through either classroom training, but some major initiatives that we've launched with the Beacon Council and really pushing apprenticeship models that not only you earn and learn at the same time. So it actually helps that individual be able to earn a living, bring money in for the family, but also acquire the skills, certifications, and additional career pathway to high-paying jobs. And so here's an opportunity for individuals who are low themselves to get higher wage paying jobs. But again, partnering with organizations like OIC, the Beacon Council, Miami-Dade College, some of our training vendors like the Academy, New Horizons. We just mentioned a few. But we also have, again, we cover Dade and Monroe County. We have 13 career centers that individuals can go to. But since I also know that you're there in person, we want to make sure that folks are able to face with my colleague over there, Tara, with Career Source Brand and getting access to the services they offer. But this is a prime opportunity for individuals to go back and get reskilled and look for jobs that are available. Because I can tell you, we have 80,000 plus openings available.
Excellent. Thank you for that feedback. We're going to stay on the workforce side. Mr. Finney, one of your primary responsibilities is attracting new corporations here in the Miami-Dade area, and you do a heck of a job, I say. And as you're engaging businesses who have expressed interest, who have migrated to Miami, what has been the conversation with them on their commitment and appetite to offer on-the-job training, internships, apprenticeships, to put some skin in the game?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the core work that we do at the Beacon Council really is around existing companies that are looking to grow and expand, and then attracting companies from around the United States, around the world, for that matter. And for the most part, they're large established companies that are going to hire, just say, 50, 100, hundreds of people, right? So not the small businesses. And in many cases, those companies are telling us, what they're looking for. They're telling us they're looking for rich talent pools that can be available to them. They want to understand what the talent pool, what talent exists in this community that can meet their expectations. And especially in the larger established companies and in the tech companies that we've been talking to, they tend to be, highly educated, highly seasoned types of individuals that they're looking for. But what's really interesting is that they are, in fact, very interested in hiring local. And sometimes there are challenges in that, right? This tech movement that we have going is coming at a pace faster than our colleges and universities can necessarily graduate people. And so there is a need for us to have, as a community, an ability to attract talent here from other locations. And interestingly enough, literally I was on a Zoom meeting just yesterday with a new entrant into the community, looking to hire a couple hundred people. And they said that they were finding a lot of Miami and South Florida natives that had gone through our colleges and universities and moved to other parts of the United States that were eager to get back home. And so we know that we've been developing the talent. What we haven't had is the opportunities to connect them with a lot of these outstanding companies that are now making themselves available here in South Florida. And so our talent pool now is starting to migrate back home. We also know that our colleges and universities are prepared to step up to the plate and do what they need to in order to support this activity. In fact, I'll go back a few years to when Amazon was in the process of doing their competition for their second headquarters. Miami-Dade was one of the locations they looked at, or South Florida was. And we put together a very comprehensive analysis of all the kinds of graduates that we have to meet the needs of that company. Now, we didn't win that project, and we were disappointed about that. But what we were excited about was that we built such a rich database of information that we could use it to promote Miami-Dade to other companies that weren't looking to hire 50,000 people, that might be looking to hire 50, 100, 1,000, because our capacity clearly could meet that. The other thing that we know is that many of the tech companies actually have these hybrid workforces. I mentioned Amazon a little bit earlier. Most people know Amazon for its e-commerce and the big distribution centers. We've got a half a dozen of them here in South Florida. And those are jobs that are paying $15 to $20 an hour, and it creates an access point for virtually anybody in our community that wants to work in that kind of a job. But Amazon also has these highly skilled, highly technical jobs, right, with Amazon Web Services and other parts of their business. So they're an incredible hybrid type of tech company. There's also a fairly new entrant into our market called Reef Technologies. Venture-backed company, raised about $3 billion, and they're in the process of ramping up their operations here. And they're operating what they call these ghost kitchens and other things like that, where they basically have bought up a lot of parking lots, and they're converting those parking lots into last mile distribution of goods and services. Things like, Popeye's chicken. If you order Popeye's online, it might be made at a ghost kitchen at a parking lot where they've set it up, and now they're making the food and delivering it to your door. And so it's creative things like that that's happening. And by the way, the workers who are doing that are in fact not necessarily those highly skilled, highly technical workers. They're going to be hired local. And it represents, thousands of jobs in the cases of the kinds of companies like Reef that I'm talking about. So these tech companies really are in a hybrid mode where everybody in our community can participate at an appropriate level. And they're telling us they want to hire local. They don't want to make the mistakes that Silicon Valley made, right? And they want to be able to find Miami natives wherever they may be and get those folks to come back here and start using their intellect to move this community forward versus other options they may have.
Did you say 3 with a B, like as in billion? For Reef, the Reef Corporation?
Yeah, $3 billion in venture capital is what Reef has raised.
Excellent. That sounds like a lot of opportunity, folks. Get your purses ready to go capitalize on that opportunity. All right, so let's talk about investments to this ecosystem. Keith, let's come back to you. Could you talk about some of the investments, whether it's economic, workforce-wise, et cetera, that the city is making to prepare to nurture this ecosystem that's coming?
And if I can piggyback a little bit off of some of the comments Mike made. Another company, MCI, recently relocated, well, set up a data center office here. They're looking to hire 100 people, working remotely, $15+ an hour. This is a tech company, but it's not really tech related, if you will. So those are some opportunities there that people can avail themselves to. They want to hire local, very intentional. They are very bullish on South Florida. And so those are some of the other opportunities that are happening. One of the projects in terms of building out the ecosystem, we're working in partnership with Miami-Dade College. Through some of our American Rescue Act funding, the city allocated $2 million. Miami-Dade County has put in the pot $5 million, and the Knight Foundation is going to put in $7 million, and we're going to do some workforce development training, upskilling. The degree programs are going to be on site at Miami-Dade College, but for some of the credentialing is going to be done with some of our community partners. We've been in preliminary discussions with like Big Brothers Big Sisters. We've looked at the Little Haiti Cultural Center. We have reached out to TED with Technology to help with some of the marketing and promotion to try to get people familiar with the programs. Because one of the things that we find as part of this evolving communication that we have, because we got, the latest thing now is not necessarily Facebook, but TikTok is a growing big communication modem. And so for us to reach the population that we want to reach and target, we have to think outside the box and we have to be a little more creative. So folks with million record sellers,
That's 30 million. Thank you very much.
30 overall 30 million, but they know a little something about marketing and promotion. And they know something about reaching the target audience that we may not be able to reach as a government or as an organization. So those are some of the work. We're also, the company MCI, we're looking at partnering them with Miami-Dade College. Now with Rick Beasley's organization, there's a program where certain individuals, there's an apprentice program that they can go to. And based on the individual, there could be an opportunity where the salary that the employer pays is reimbursable for up to 50% based on the individual. So as a convener, if you will, as a partner, as part of our partnership initiative, the Beacon Council is doing some wonderful things out there. You got Miami-Dade College is doing some wonderful things. We don't want to get into the education business because that's not what we do. Right. But what we can do from our bully pulpit and from our vantage point is try to connect the dots and try to be part of the ecosystem that's out there and bring in other people like Technology to kind of help with some of the grassroots outreach.
Mr. Carswell, you are going to experience a public shameless plug. OIC of South Florida looks forward to working with you on that initiative.
Oh, that's right.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say that to you.
Well, in full disclosure, we recently got a grant in partnership with OIC.
We won $1 million in partnership with you guys.
First time.
Absolutely.
and that won't be the last time.
Let the mayor know we got another couple million coming, and we look forward to working with you on that initiative.
All right.
You heard it here first, folks. All right. Mr. Beasley. Is Rick still with us? I don't see him on the screen anymore. He's not. So we'll go to Ted. So Ted, one of the cohorts that we tend to focus on, given that our core focus is on minority communities, where there tends to be more blight than we care for, is the returning citizens population. Some call them ex offenders. We steer away from that term because it has a negative connotation. But of individuals who are returning from incarceration. What an untapped source of labor, folks who paid the debt to society, who made some mistakes, like we all have, if we're honest, and we want to make sure to give them an opportunity. We're going to come to Mr. Beasley with this question next as well. What kind of opportunities could be possible for folks who just believe, you know what, I may have this blemish on my record, they're not going to hire me, there's no opportunity here for me. What kind of hope would you offer folks from urban communities who've had some challenges with the law, who see all this economic prosperity, but they're afraid to step in to be able to take a swing at an opportunity as well?
Listen, a lot of young men and women in our community make mistakes. They're young, didn't know at that particular time, and it has something on their record. Got great organizations like Brotherhood, Leroy Jones, what he has there, and helping brothers get back into society. I think it's very important. I tell everybody, elementary, my dad was incarcerated until I was in the 4th grade. My grandma and my mother raised me. I remember going to see my dad incarcerated. But my dad was able to come back home and be an electrician. He was able to provide for his family. And I was able to see him be able to get his life back on the right track and get himself going again. And that's an example of, he could have been incarcerated the whole time and never been in my life, but he was able to be in my life and to help me be a man. I tell everybody, he wasn't the richest man in the world, but he was my role model. He was my role model because he showed me things not to do. So we have to give brothers and sisters that made a mistake as a young person, give them another opportunity to get back in. They're very, very smart, intelligent people incarcerated. I tell everybody, in elementary school, some of the smartest kids that was in my class, some of them incarcerated now. I send money to them on a constant basis, and they tell me, do whatever you have to do to make sure all the young brothers and sisters do not come here. Please make that important. And I tell everybody, I got a bill over $700 a month that I take care of brothers and sisters that was raised with me here in Miami, Carol City area, that I take care of. I make sure I send them money, I communicate with them on a regular, and they make sure, Ted, don't let our brothers and sisters come in, help them, educate them. And we have to change our community, we have to change the culture, you know? And by us changing the culture will change the community. So it's important when brothers and sisters come home, we have to wrap our arms around them. Some of them don't be ready, but we have to give them an opportunity to get back on the track, get themselves together, because like I told you, it's some very smart, intelligent brothers and sisters that just made a mistake. And we have to show them the way, you know? Show them opportunity, show them how to get back in the workforce, to get back started again. So I think it's important. I'm a child that reflects that. Like I said, my dad was incarcerated until I was in the 4th grade. I remember going to see him that whole time, and it made a big impact on my life. And that's my role model. And I tell everybody that.
Thank you so much for that contribution, Ted. The passion that you have is very evident, and we thank you for sharing your personal story. One thing I know, having led this organization for as long as I had, is oftentimes the returning citizen population isn't the warm and fuzzy. But the truth of the matter is, if we're honest with ourselves, all of us has fallen short of the glory, right? And some of us just never got caught. Some of our sins have been bigger than others, but we want to give these folks an opportunity. I want to tap Rick Beasley, my good brother, fraternity brother that is, and a partner of ours who does a lot of work and has a lot of passion for returning citizens. Rick and I have worked together on leading an effort on Ban the Box, which we're proud to say the Miami-Dade County has adapted. Rick, what's your thoughts? Returning citizens, folks from underrepresented communities who have some barriers, how could they prepare themselves for this wave tech? Is there a spot on the table for those folks in the community?
Oh, most definitely. So let me address it on 2 issues. The first one on how organizations like CareerSource, OIC, or partnering agencies who provide employment training. We first should see how we can get behind the walls and provide the training there. And excuse the pun, but we have a captive audience, okay? And it allows us the ability to be able to kind of structure programs that will help returning citizens that once they leave the institutions to get right back to work. Matter of fact, we're trying to work with our director here, Daniel Jr., on a work release program. We were almost there, then COVID hit. And so that kind of stopped some efforts there. But again, it's how we provide training behind the walls so that when our returning citizens are leaving the institution, they have the skills to be able to acquire to get the job. And even once they leave, again, it is our effort in terms of working with OIC, other partner agencies. Our goal is trying to see how we can get them retrained, reskilled, retooled to get to work. So that's the implementation side or the operational side. So let's get to the policy side. So let me switch on the other hat. Again, I'm the director of CareerSource South Florida. Let me put on, as some of you all may know, I'm the chairman of the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce. And one of the things that we are doing, and again, I've been hand in hand with Newton pushing this Ban the Box several years ago. There was some legislation that Newton and I were at city, with municipalities, counties, getting support resolutions to support. an initiative to ban the box at the state level. So what we're trying to do here locally is there's an initiative that the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce is looking at, is how we can get our private sector members to look at banning the box. That question on that application, have you been convicted of a crime? It's not, we're not asking or saying that you could not ask as a part of the hiring process, but giving that individual an opportunity to be able to sell his skills to that employer that enables him to be able to acquire that job. And that becomes important. And so we need associations, and again, even asking a question of Mr. Finney, of looking and seeing how we can get the Beacon Council and others, because it takes a lot of us from a policy perspective. And this is the perfect time. Why? Because businesses in both, actually throughout the country, need talent. And so right now is a perfect opportunity to eliminate that question. Didn't say eliminate from the application process, but eliminate that question so that when you're filling out that application, you're not being, I don't want to use the word discriminated, but you're not being tossed out without given a chance to really sell the skills that you have. And so we can, from a policy perspective, we need to look at pushing ban the box, not only from the public, but from the private sector side, but then from an operational side is how we can get behind the walls, provide the training, and adequate training that will help individuals be able to secure jobs that help take care of them as well as their families. So that's how we should be approaching this.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Mike, I know you have a deep passion, be it your leadership, having brought Miami-Dade Community Ventures that we partner with you on. If I'm out there, I'm a young person saying, man, I may only have a GED. I may or may not have something on my record. I hear all this fancy stuff happening. I sure want a better life. I'd love to have a house one day. I'd love to own a home. I'd like to get married. All this great stuff happening. How can I participate? What would you say to that young person?
Yeah, I'd say there's definitely opportunities out there. There's employers out there. There's programming out there. Rick Beasley just talked about some of it. And I think it's getting connected to these resources is the single biggest challenge that I think a lot of young people have. It's finding those trusted advisors. Ted mentioned Leroy Jones and others, the Brotherhood. I mean, you've got to find, or we have to connect up with the trusted advisors that know these young people, that's in the neighborhoods with them, and get those trusted advisors to start directing these folks toward some of the program resources that are out there. The Beacon Council is not very well known in this community, right? But we're known exceptionally well in the broader business community. And so what we're trying to do is design our programming so that we can in fact become a much better known organization that can deliver the kind of support that we know individuals need. One of the programs that's been referenced, I think once or twice, is called Miami Community Ventures, that we launched at the Beacon Council in partnership with CareerSource South Florida, OIC, and about 20 other organizations. And the idea behind Community Ventures is that we want to help individuals that have the lowest prospects for employment get access to living wage jobs that are full-time and that come with benefits. Why? Because we know that individuals, for example, we ran this program when I was in Michigan, and we helped thousands of individuals get access to jobs, including returning citizens. And of the returning citizen population, we had about a 7% recidivism rate, right? So we know that one of the biggest problems with returning citizens is that they get out, they reoffend, and they're back in. And in Michigan at the time, it was about a 31% recidivism rate when we launched our program. For the individuals who participated with us, and again, there were several thousand, that recidivism rate dropped to 7%. So that meant that the vast majority of these young folks who were reoffending, because they had a job that paid a living wage and they could support themselves, simply did not reoffend. It's pretty basic. To some extent, what we're dealing with is the economics of being able to survive in a community like Miami-Dade that's not cheap. And if we can figure out how to deliver that, it works. So the Community Ventures program here, what is it doing? OIC has an incredible training pipeline to get people ready for jobs once they are released from incarceration, so that when the job is found, they can easily transition into it. And then we partner up with them through a grant from CareerSource South Florida to provide wraparound services for those individuals, in addition to the wraparound services that's provided by the OIC. We also partner with Florida International University, FIU. They have a construction trades program. So individuals who have been incarcerated and they want to get into the construction trades, and you see all these cranes in the sky. I mean, these are the obvious jobs. You can walk to the construction sites and get jobs in many cases. FIU is doing an amazing job of training folks, and that's a partnership with Lennar, the big home builder, FIU, and of course, Career Source South Florida. And every single person that's coming through that program is getting access to a job. Of course, the challenge is always of scaling, right? We're talking, tens of people as opposed to thousands of people. So we've got to figure out how to scale some of these things that are really good so that we can get the majority of the folks who are struggling with opportunities for employment. I was telling this panel just before we got started, there's some just absolutely heart-wrenching stories that's coming out of community ventures. We have a young man who is blind, that now is working for Florida Blue in their customer service and support. We've got young women who, for whatever reason, are moms, single female heads of household, who are now working at JP Morgan Chase Bank in one of their customer support functions because Chase wanted to take a chance on them. And I can just give you story after story, but the one that's probably most interesting to me is a family of 4 who were all unemployed, and the mom was incarcerated and was released, and that family of 4 all got jobs making $20 an hour. Now, the story doesn't end there because, unfortunately, there has been some attrition from the group. But the reality is when you can get a family of 1, 2, 3, or 4 whose income is 0, and suddenly they're making $20 an hour, that household income is pretty amazing. You get one person working at $20 an hour, that's in round numbers about $40,000 a year. 2, it's 80. 3, it's 120, right? I mean, you do the math, it can be very impactful for a family. And that's the kind of thing that we're trying to do with returning citizens, and we're having a lot of success. But we need more employers, for sure, that are willing to ignore the box because the box is still there for now. But we want employers that will ignore it and give people a chance. And in all honesty, talent is the most important currency we have right now, right? I hate to put it that way, but people represent money to businesses. If they don't have people, they can't make money. And we're hearing all these companies now screaming about it, right? Wages are starting to go up because the talent pool has been pretty tight. But what about this talent pool we have sitting in urban cores that are in poverty? 322,000 people in Miami-Dade County in poverty. That's an incredible talent pool that can be tapped into. And of course, a lot of those are returning citizens. And we just need to make sure that we're paying attention to that talent pool and connecting them to jobs as effectively as we do anybody else.
Thank you. I'm going to come back to Rick because I know you got to get to your board meeting in a little bit. You have an audience of employers who are on the fringes. What's your message to them? How do you, certainly in deference to their business, we're never going to concede to that. We believe that you got to talk to business in a business manner. They have a bottom line to meet, they have a job to do. So it's not necessarily all about an altruistic endeavor because they got a business to run. But what would you say to them about the talent pool Mike alluded to? What would be your appeal to the business community to give folks an opportunity?
Let me first say the mantra that we have here at Career Source South Florida, the only customer that I have is the business community. The job seeker, the talent, the product, they are our product. Our goal there with job seekers is to retool, reskill, so that we make them more marketable and attractive to our business community. And so we need the business community to, again, allow us to know what their needs are so we can address that. From a workforce side, and again, working with Mike and OIC and other partners, our goal is how we design programs. Mike mentioned he had a conversation with some employers yesterday and on Tuesday evening. I probably was on a call with 3 or 4 different employers trying to look at designing new programs to not only attract but also retain, which is why I try to focus on the apprenticeship model. And I'm going to push that more and more. Why? Because it's a way for employers to build their own respective model, And again, Mike's there, so I'm gonna put Mike on the spot. Please reach out to Mike and his staff if Sherry is not in the audience. I'm sure she is, so Sherry, stand up so everybody knows who you are, so they can hit you up. But the idea here is for us to design apprenticeship models that enable employers to recruit and retain. And where the workforce board comes in, our goal there is that we help subsidize those wages. As an example, being automotive. Again, they're needing technicians that understand not only the mechanical side, but the electrical side of cars, because our cars nowadays are being made with all types of highfalutin gadgets and everything. It's not like before you can, I knew how to get under a car and change the oil, but now I don't even want to mess with it because I'm going to mess up something and it costs me more money to fix my car. But what we've done with them was that we did a recruitment process, but designed an apprenticeship program specifically for being automotive. We're also going to launch it with Warren Henry. But the goal there was to recruit. And where we came in is that we subsidize the wages. I think the total cost for the year for being automotive is about $447,000. So we're going to subsidize about $115,000 to $125,000 of those wages. Now that helps on the bottom line. I also say for those employers who are needing, again, looking at the talent pool that we have, particularly those returning citizens, come talk to us. Let's see how we can use our dollars for on-the-job training, which will reimburse up to 75% of the wages. And I will just share with you all, left part of my board meeting where I'm back in here, that our board just approved a policy that we're sending up to the Department of Labor for them to approve, that any employer that's working doing business in an opportunity zone will be able to reimburse up to 100% of the training costs, which is the wages. And so if you're paying $20 an hour and I'm covering 100%, I'm going to cover 100% of the wages for the length of the program that we've agreed to. That's the beauty. Same thing with an apprenticeship model. And so for those employers that may be in the audience that you're going to about to bid on projects with a municipality or a county, come see me before you make the bid. We can then negotiate and discuss how we can save you money in terms of your labor costs, which then lowers your bid, which makes your proposal more attractive. And that's a way in which we're using our resources. But again, our main goal is how we look at the talent pool that we have. And Mike hit it on we have a significant number of folks who are unemployed, significant number of folks who are economically disadvantaged. But does not mean that they don't have the skills or the aptitude. And our goal there is to reskill and retool them. And so if you're working with, again, OIC, Community Ventures, and I know Sherry's in the audience, please reach out to her so we can get with our training vendors to design a program for you. And we can come up with different scenarios on how we can make it work. Because at the end of the day, again, it's about saving you money on the bottom line, but also providing a way for you to attract and retain your workforce. So I'll leave it at that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start to tear down to our final segment of the function here today. And Rick, a perfect segue. The next segment, we're going to be talking about funding and investment opportunities. So those of you who have healthy pockets and you say, look, I want to invest, or not so healthy pockets and you want to get it to be healthy, how do you elevate your economic posture by investing in this tech boom? Let's go to you, Mr. Lucas. What are you seeing in terms of opportunity to invest? Are your artists coming together? Are they pooling resources? Are they invested in crypto? I want to give a special shout out to FTX, a pending partner of ours. You know, FTX, they have the naming rights for the American Airlines, formerly the American Airlines Arena. And we're going to be doing some projects with them in the near future. What are you seeing in terms of opportunities to invest for people to get a part of this economic wave?
Great question. I'm forming a corporation, a venture capital, with a couple of my entertainment and athletes. We all came together and we're in the process of doing, it's going to be Capital Connect Fund. And what we're doing is we're going to find some black and brown people that's here in South Florida, and we're going to invest in them. Because like I said earlier, if we was able to find talented artists here that can go out and sell millions of records, I firmly believe that it's some very talented people that might be working at Burger King, but just need that opportunity. Might be working at Home Depot that need that opportunity. And how we going to go about it? I'm going to go ahead and make sure the moms and the dads know. You get the moms by being on that TV that they're watching. That radio station they still listen to, that newspaper they still reading, and I'm going to get the kids on the social media side by tapping into TikTok, like Keith said earlier, Instagram, and all the social media. So we're going to bridge both gaps together, and we're going to bring awareness. I believe that you still get down and get into our communities. Everybody know here in South Florida, this Saturday, the park is going to be filled with people playing a football game. Why we don't get out and touch those people and let that mom know that her son is so smart, because when Miss Mary down the street, TV don't work, they call her son to come down and fix that TV. That kid has the talent. Right. We just got to expose that kid to the opportunity and let that kid know, hey, with that talent, I see something in you and I know you can do it. And mom might say, hey, son, please just go and meet with technology and see what they can help and see how they can help you get started. Because I know there's a lot of talent here in South Florida, but they just don't know. 2 years ago, we didn't have this here. And I tell you, I grew up, it was just football. And then if football didn't work out, you might get caught up in some criminal activities because that's what everybody else was doing. Now we have technology here in South Florida. And we got to let our kids know that there's opportunity here for them. And if we can make it as simple as going to McDonald's, I want to make it that simple. I want in our community, every corner they turn on, every corner they go to, they know that opportunity there. It's not just putting all your faith in, I'm going to make it to the NFL or I'm going to make it as a rapper. We got to expose. And 2 years ago, Mike Finney, you might have heard of technology in South Florida, but to me, 2 years ago, it wasn't as big as it is now. If it's here in our backyard, we need to have the best education system in South Florida. I'm going to get to that Northwestern Bull High School. I'm going to get to Booker T. I'm going to get to Edison. I'm going to get to Carol City Chiefs. And we're going to get out there and help those kids. I want these kids to be able to intern at the 9th grade at some of these tech companies. Intern in the 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. They might even go to college. They might be able to just get that job right out of high school because they have proven themselves as an intern over the last 4 years. So those are some things that I think we're going to do, and that's what I'm planning to make out here in South Florida.
Excellent, phenomenal feedback. I know there's been an alluding to a lot of different high schools. We know the Bulls, Pride. I'm a North Miami pioneer, just for the record. Thank you very much. Keith, talk to me. So what do we do? How do we engage the business community? How do we take a look at the investments? What are the opportunities for people who in the room here today might say, look, it's a lot of opportunity. Can I invest a couple of dollars? Do I need $1 million to invest? Can I start with $100? What are some opportunities for people to invest and to participate here?
So 2 things. One, I want to just kind of pick up where Ted left off. One of the things he did mention that he pitched the city, no pun intended, on doing a black and brown tech pitch competition. Correct. That we're going to start in January, I think. Yes. And so, the idea is we're going to go into, I think we talked about Little Haiti, maybe Little Haiti, Liberty City, and Little Havana. Yeah. And then there was going to be a finale pitch competition at the James L. Knight Center. Right. And so one of the things when you do the research about folks that are getting the venture capital funding, very few are black and brown founders. And Morgan Stanley even coined the term, they call it the $1 billion blind spot. No, $1 trillion blind spot, not $1 trillion. And so one of the things that when you talk about investing in black and brown businesses, it's not about social good, but you're missing out on opportunities to get a return on your investment because it's so underfunded and undercapitalized. And as Ted mentioned, there are people out there with great ideas that you in the private sector can make a lot of money. So don't do it and look at it from the standpoint, oh, you're going to do some ESGs. No, it's not about that. It's about making money. It's about the bottom line. So one of the other things that we're doing, because the mayor is very big on crypto and fintech, is that we're working with Coinbase, and we're finalizing some things where we're going to be giving about $500 a month to initially 200 families. It's going to be placed into a card, and 2 to 10% of that is going to be invested in Bitcoin. Wow. And the other balance is going to be in USDC, cash equivalent. So the individuals can either transfer and buy additional cryptocurrency, or they could cash it out and sell it all. But that's one way, and there's going to be an educational component. And we've already we're targeting the neighborhoods of, we're looking at Liberty City, Little Havana, I think Flagami, and then we're also doing an outlier in Miami Gardens. And so that's something that we're going to be probably announcing with Coinbase in January. So there's a lot happening, and it's about education. Again, Isaiah Jackson, who wrote Bitcoin and Black America, artists, because when you get into the cryptocurrency, it's really empowering. Don't want to talk too theoretical, but can you imagine, having access to resources outside of the system where it's just based on, you can access financing, funding, lending. This is where a lot of this is going in terms of cryptocurrency. And I just implore people to just look into it and get involved and understand it. And it may not be something for someone who is, used to seeing payphones in Encyclopedia Britannica. But all
to get you for Christmas.
Right, but all those young people out there who have a cell phone, who are very good on this TikTok and the social media and stuff, they can get a wallet. A wallet where they can get funds deposited into their account. The city, I would be remiss if I didn't mention, we launched an initiative with Miami Coin. And that is a currency that we're going to look at operationalize from the standpoint, it's cryptocurrency. We didn't create it. It was someone that we partnered with that we agreed to accept the profits, if you will. And we want to see people utilize that. So if you get a parking ticket, for example, from the Miami Parking Authority, and you pay in Miami Coin, you get a discount. If you go shop at certain merchants, organization, restaurants, and you buy with Miami Coin, and you purchase it, you get a discount. Our piece so far, at least a couple of days ago, profits from the launch of Miami Coin so far, $20 million in U.S. currency. $20 million for us just agreeing to accept the partnership in the currency. So in the mayor, we're going to look at plowing that back into education, plowing that back into the community. So exciting things are happening.
No doubt. That is very, very exciting. And I hear a lot of synergies. You're going to get one more shameless plug publicly. We'll be in touch. Do my job right here. Mike, investments is corporations are coming in. What are folks saying? We got Mr. Beasley.
I was trying to chime in if you would just allow me just a second.
Okay.
Because one, Keith, you and I got to get together. We said we're going to get together.
I want my brokerage fee for that, man. Don't cut me out. Call my lawyer.
Hold on. Keith and I met at an event, and we said we're going to get together because I shared with him, again, because we're talking about an investment in IT. And so I want the audience to know in terms of what we've done in terms of IT and moving the needle for our community. And again, Mike and Newton, but let me share with others that we launched a Tech Hire initiative several years ago, particularly under the Obama administration, to focus on Black and brown folks getting access to technology. And so we've launched 3 Tech Hire centers, one in partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters. That was to ensure that at-risk youth had an opportunity to get exposure and training in IT. Then we partnered with the Opelika CDC, again, a community that has the highest unemployment and highest crime in Dade County. And so we partnered with them, again, to launch a Tech Hire Center. And again, we're doing so many programmings there. The other Tech Hire Center we launched was in partnership with the YWCA. Again, increasing the number of women who have access and training in IT. And I think we're on our 3rd cohort with our Women in Tech initiative. But besides that, we've also, for the last 4 or 5 years, have had our Tech Hire boot camps, which is offered just to high school students. And because of the pandemic, we've been offering it to out-of-school youth. Again, going through 6 weeks of training to get their certification. If they successfully complete the program, we give them $300. If they not only successfully complete and get a certification, we give them additional $200 plus an internship in IT for the following. And so just also to let you know that we're going to be launching an initiative in partnership with Google, with this free training access to individuals. And then we're working out a partnership with Microsoft, again, in terms of the skill sets the individual learn, again, free training. But this also is a part of the mayor's Rebuild 305, Renew 305, as an effort to ensure that our folks are digitally literate. And some individuals may not know, but we launched a digital access component years ago to give a computer and 1 year of internet access to the individuals that are coming through our system. And so those are some of the things in terms of investment. But Keith, you mentioned about the having a hackathon. I would love to see how we can partner on that to ensure that all our communities, and just to let you all know that we're working with the Mexican American Council to again launch another Tech Hire Center to give exposure to migrant workers, to again break the barrier, and then also in partnership with St. Law to kick off and access, a Tech Hire Center there again to offer to refugees. And then the last one, Keith, in your backyard in Overtown. As soon as the Overtown Youth Center is completed, working with Tina Brown, we're going to launch a Tech Hire Center to focus on tech in the Overtown area. So just those are some of the investments that we have made as an agency. But I want to share that, and then Keith, we're going to get together, okay?
All right.
All right.
Look forward to it.
Keith and Rick, I got a lot of witnesses. Don't cut me out the deal.
So wait a minute. So we're going to always include OIC, but if you're talking about a deal.
And technology and Beacon Council.
That's right.
But I don't want to be on public, but if you want to bust me out, I need fish.
Oh.
And that's you owe me. So I'm saying in front of everybody who's there. So
It's an inside joke. I go fishing and Mr. Beasley want his cut. So we got it. Duly noted. Folks, we're coming down to our final 5 minutes for us to wrap up. I think you would agree with me. It's been rich so far. Good stuff. Mr. Finney, when we start talking about funding and investment opportunities, whether it's the layman, the local community person, to a small business owner, to someone that's wealthy, is there an opportunity for people to get involved from an investment standpoint to elevate their economic posture?
You know, the best advice I can give, and the best advice that I had when I was a young tyke, was to save based on your capacity to save. So in other words, if you make $1 an hour and you need to spend to cover your bills, you need to spend 80 cents an hour, you have the capacity to save 20 cents. And so in other words, it's just important to always pay yourself first, and that's in the form of savings, so that you're building something for the future. No matter how small it is or how large it is, do it within your capacity. And what my other 4 colleagues here have been talking about is all about financial literacy. Everything, you hear them all talking about training and connecting and so on. That's all about financial literacy and understanding what it means. It started for me in kindergarten, right? So we are all given these age analogies. Well, mine is, my first bank account was through my elementary school, Parkland Elementary School in Flint, Michigan, where every kindergartner was able to open up a passbook savings account with Citizens Bank in Flint, Michigan. And we got these little brown books, and it was really cool. And your parents would send you to school with a nickel or a dime or a quarter or whatever their capacity was, that you could then deposit in the bank. And there was a representative from the bank that would be at our school that had set up a little teller's desk. And we could each go with our passbook, give that banker our nickel, dime, our quarter. They would stamp our bank account book, and we'd go home and celebrate with our family that we had saved more money. And that was literally my first introduction to what it's about in financial literacy and what the future of money was worth, right? And I've never forgotten that lesson. I've been a saver my entire life. I've always paid myself first. In other words, I save first and then live based on the capacity that I have after that. I have 3 sons. The oldest one, not so much, but the younger 2 are savers. But we all get together on a regular basis and we talk about investing. My oldest son is an econ major, and so he fancies himself everything about how to invest. And so he's constantly pinging me about this new investment opportunity, right? He was pinging me about cryptocurrency before I even heard the term cryptocurrency. He was pinging me about Netflix and Facebook and Redfin, and I can go on and on, Facebook. I mean, all these different tech companies, because he was reading about this stuff and studying this stuff as a part of his curriculum. And I only wish I had been smart enough to invest in all of them, right? Because that's what it's about. My middle son is, he's a tech guy. He's a senior software engineer at Facebook. And don't blame him for all the problems Facebook has been having. But the reality is that he's in the core of it, and he's hearing about it, he's seeing about it, and he's sharing as a part of our network, our inside network, what's happening in the tech world and the kind of things that the tech community is talking about. And I pay attention, because I know that if I don't pay attention, they don't pay attention. And I want my boys to at least have an opportunity to really enjoy some of what we're all talking about, the prosperity that's likely to come from this tech boom that we're engaged in. So to me, it's about financial literacy. Start it as early as you can. For me, it started in kindergarten. And it's been fairly easy for me to pay it forward with my friends and family, and that's what I try and do.
Excellent. What a great observation for us to think broadly about tech. I think we grew up in a traditional tech sense. The computer nerd with the pocket protector full of pins we would think of. But tech is so broad. You heard Mike reference Netflix and a whole other corporations. They are tech infused, and the base of all of them is based on technology. So we strongly encourage folks to think broadly, whether it's a workforce and a job and a career opportunity, an investment opportunity, to think broadly about that. I'm going to come to Mr. Lucas with the final question, and I'm going to ask our panelists to think about your final comments. If you can give your 30-second wrap up, what would you say to folks, whether it's a workforce standpoint, an investment standpoint, an equity standpoint? It's your perspective that we want to hear from. But Mr. Lucas, final question to you. I'm a young person in an urban city here in Miami-Dade, Florida, where I'm born and raised and proud of that. And I'm listening to all of this. I have no clue where to start. I don't believe this is for me. That's those people. What word of encouragement would you give them to get into the mix, to take an opportunity to delve into this economic boom we're seeing here?
I'm going to take that question and I'm going to put that back on us. And what I mean by that, kids need to see people like us for them to be able to imagine that can happen. They was able to see somebody from their community that made it to the NFL, to make them dream, vision, and say, I can do that. We got to take what's going on here in South Florida and take it to them and show them, hey, this can happen. Like I told you 2 years ago, technology was not here in their face. We got to do above and beyond. I mean, you know that when you was a child, when you got older, you said, if I would have knew better, I would have did this different. Talk back to that person. That person that, if you would have did something different, you would have did it a little different, went about it a different way. So you're talking to a younger version of yourself. We have to get out and touch that young community and let that young community know you don't have to leave South Florida and go to DC. You don't have to leave South Florida and go to Atlanta. That opportunity is right here in your backyard, and you can provide for your family right now. I think if we, based on some of the conversation things I heard today, our young kids can make an impact in their family household starting today. If we give them that opportunity, they can provide income in their family right now, starting today, if we give those young kids that opportunity. So I just think getting down to starting as early as high school, man, you just blew my mind. Elementary school? Think about that. If we go back and start giving kids in our elementary school opportunity about technology right now, starting today, because I'm not worried about us. We be blessed up here, right? But what about our kids 20 years from now? Would they still be able to live in South Florida, or would they have to move to Georgia? Or would they have to move out of Florida because things have just got so big? No, I don't want them to run. I don't want them to leave. I want them to stay here and continue to build South Florida, the same Miami that I was able to grow up in, and give them that opportunity. So I put that back on us, and I really would like that we get out and touch our community. Opportunities like this, I would love to have a whole bunch of kids sitting out there, and we provide them with opportunity.
Mr. Lucas, we receive everything you said. I want you to know that on behalf of my board, our staff, we received that challenge, and we look forward to partnering with you and others on the stage and across our audience to do that. I think that is a phenomenal idea. It is so important to model. Again, people's aspirations is only as far as what they've been exposed to. Like you referenced, I too, product Miami-Dade, and I thought It was about making it to the NFL and buying my mom the big house, et
Yes.
cetera, et cetera. Many of us who had that aspiration, because that's what was exposed
Yes.
to us as the opportunity, and in turn informed our aspiration. But there's so much more than that, and I think this tech room is doing that for us. So thank you, and the challenge is well received, and we look forward to activating that. Mr. Beasley, we're going to start with you with your final words. Your 30-second commercial is, whether it's from a workforce standpoint to the business community, and then we're going to start with Keith and then come to my right. Mr. Beasley, the floor is yours.
Well, one, again, Newton, thank you for your leadership of having these dynamic leaders on here to have a conversation about tech and how we can look at addressing economic needs. Again, for those employers who are looking for talent, please reach out to Career South Florida, OIC, Community Ventures through the Beacon Council. And let's get together to see how we can derive initiatives to help you address. But those for the folks in the audience who are looking for employment, who are looking for a different way of life, please reach out to our office, reach out to OIC, and again, Miami Community Ventures. Here's a way for us to reskill, retool, and redesign. At the end of the day, folks, it is about building a better community, about building a better South Florida, so that we have a place where we can live, play, and be able to have potential for our future kids. And I think, Newton, you get another broker's fee, because I want to make sure I reach out to Ted so that we can.
Somebody call my lawyer, man. We need to record this.
It's recorded, but what Ted has said is true. The onus is back on all of us, our business community, all of us as community leaders, to ensure that our future workforce is there to be able to live and thrive here in South Florida. So again, my hat's off to you, Newton, you and your team. You all do a fantastic job. I'm so proud of you, my brother. Again, you pledged the best fraternity in the country, Omega Psi Phi fraternity. The best fraternity. And whatever we can do, you have our support.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Mr. Keith Carswell.
So you had me thinking a little bit too, and first of all, I just want to thank you. I really enjoyed the panel and the discussion, and I just want to say to those that are sitting out there, I was kind of thinking about some of the conversations I have with my boys. I'm a father of 2 black boys. I always make the distinction by saying black boys because there's a difference, and we go through different things in life. But if you're sitting back there and you're feeling down and you've gone through some stuff and you're not feeling good, one of the things that I stopped my boys from saying early on, when they would say, that ain't fair. Life is not fair, is what I tell them. Things happen. It's not a matter of, or a question of whether or not you're gonna get knocked on your ass. It's not a question. It's going to happen because that's life. You're going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs, but the question is whether or not you're going to get up. And that defines your character. That defines whether you're going to be resilient and you're going to move forward. That defines whether you're just going to lay there and not move on beyond what the situation happened. So if you start from the premise that life is not fair, life is tough, you're going to have ups and you're going to have downs. And guess what? You're not the only one. Yeah. There are plenty of other people out there that go through some stuff. But the question is, are you just going to lay there or are you going to get up? And so that's the question. And so I would say to you who may be sitting back, feeling down, feeling sorry for yourself, feeling like you're the only one, you're not the only one. There are plenty of people there. We've all got a story. We all have made mistakes. But through the grace of God, we've been able to overcome. And through the grace of God and through his mercy, we're working through some things.
Yes.
So if you're feeling that way, it's okay. Embrace yourself. Have that pity party, but then get off your butt and move forward. And I think that there are a lot of opportunities that are happening here in this city as part of this tech evolution. So find that space, find that opportunity for yourself and go for it.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
you.
That was a sermon that I got to tell you, I'm ready to pass the offering plate. Before we go on, I want to acknowledge a partner of ours, a leader in this community who helped pull this together in terms of this facility you're sitting into, the president and CEO of the Circle of Brotherhood and Nana, Mr. Leroy Jones. Good to see you, Mr. Jones. When we do my brokerage deal, talk about business, I'm bringing Leroy with me, so you know. Mike Finney, your closing remarks, 30 seconds. What you got?
Yeah, so I really love the way Ted laid out what we need to do with these young people. And so I'm going to sign up just like OIC and Newton to be a part of whatever it is you want to do to really help connect these young people to these opportunities that are here. I know it's happening. Keith talked about what the city is doing. We know that they're deep into it. We want to partner with everybody that's included in this panel to help make that happen. I firmly believe that trusted advisors can get more done in our communities than anything else. Leroy, your ears must have been burning because we referenced you a few times as being one of those trusted advisors that's out there that we know if you can get him to say this is good for our community, there's likely to be folks who will in fact believe that. And so we want to become a trusted advisor. That's what I want the Beacon Council to be. I want us to have as much access as a Ted Lucas, as a Leroy Jones, as a Keith Carswell, as a Newton Santon, as Rick Beasley. And not just access for access purposes, but because we can help make a difference with programs like Community Ventures, like our Small Business Accelerator, and all the other work that we do, and things to be determined in the future. So to me, it's all about getting connected, and we offer ourselves to be a partner with you in this process.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Lucas.
I'm just gonna start off by saying thank you. Thank you for having a young man born and raised here in South Florida, baby, sit up here with you young gentlemen, I said, and give me this opportunity to tell you from my point of view on how I feel and what needs to be done. And I can tell you one thing, I'm gonna do everything in my power to make sure our future is bright for South Florida. I wanna make sure our community get the same opportunity, and that's something that I stand firm on it. We don't sold millions of records in the music business. Now it's time to make some millionaires in the tech community, born and raised here in South Florida, some black and brown kids, to give them that same opportunity. All we got to do is give them the platform, and I bet you they'll take advantage of it. So that's something that I'm here to do, and I appreciate you guys having me here today, and it's a blessing.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please give our distinguished panel a round of applause. I think you would agree with me that it was time well spent. I'm very, very big on people's time because you can never give it back.
Yeah.
And I hope that we've delivered for you with some rich content. I am elated. I'm just coming back from vacation, so I'm already rested. So to my staff, look out, we got work to do. But I want to just quickly acknowledge all of our staff. They put all of this together. I get the pleasure of showing up. So I just want to, if you guys could just raise your hand, give it up for our staff who put this together, please. Thank you all so very, 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 very much, our people. I deeply, deeply, deeply appreciate our staff. They grind, they don't complain, they put in the work, and you all mean the world to me, and I want the world to know. Listen, as we conclude, I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Workforce Development, Mr. Anthony Robinson. But I just want you to hear my final words. Our organization was established in 1964 by the late Reverend Leon Sullivan. And I was just talking to one of my board members yesterday. I just recently visited South Africa where he did a lot of work. And I just thought to myself how in 1964, a gentleman had a vision, the tenacity to pursue it. And as a result of that, 50 plus years later, we're convened because one person had a vision and encouraged to pursue economic prosperity for folks in urban communities. And years later, he would have never been able to envision that all these years later, people are still being benefited because of his vision and his work. I ask every one of us to take that same challenge. You might think your effort doesn't count. Reverend Sullivan saw it different. So let's embrace that experience, that spirit. The change has never been a spectator sport. You got to get off your rear, as Keith said earlier, for us to put something forward because many will benefit, including our children and our families. So thank you all for your participation. Please reach out to us. We deeply embrace partnership. I'm gonna say it again. We deeply embrace partnership. If there's something you heard that moved you, touched you, or you think can help elevate what we're trying to accomplish, please reach out to us. I wish you guys all the best. God bless you. Let me turn it over to our Director of Workforce Development, who was instrumental in leading this effort here today, Mr. Anthony Robinson.
Wow, what an amazing conversation. It was such amazing. I do not know how to bring it to an end. I wish we could continue this conversation and continue to lay out the framework of what it's going to take so that our Black and brown communities can continue to benefit from the resources and the opportunities that this tech boom is going to bring to Miami. As we heard today, Miami is going to be the next technology hotspot. And the framework has been laid out for what we need to do. So I want to thank you, Mr. Lucas, Mr. Finley, Mr. Carswell, also Mr. Beasley, for laying out that framework. And I want all of us to know that OIC of South Florida, the Beacon Council, Tech Nation, the City of Miami, Carrizo, South Florida, is very committed to making sure that our minority communities take advantage of this opportunity and be able to reap the benefits of what is about to take place. To our guests that have come today, we want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, for being able to listen to this conversation and be able to take back to your community and to your stakeholders what needs to be done to continue to make this message and this thing a possibility. To our guests that are virtually, we are thankful for you also. And we hope that you too take this message back to your stakeholders and your community and be able to share what we talked about today so that we continue to move this forward. We at OIC of South Florida have been around for 20 years, and we're thankful for the work that we've done. We shared and we've helped individuals in Dade and Broward County, and I've done the math of how many individuals we have touched over the 20 years. It is over 20,000 individuals. So we are blessed in the work that we're doing. And we want to be able to continue doing this work, but we need your help and your support. So once again, we say thank you for what you are doing. Thank you for what you'll be doing in the future, because we are going to need your support in order to make this happen.